People sometimes wonder why I don't explain what the price of something is in the video. I usually put a link in the video description. It's because prices change. Here's a perfect example. I reviewed this camera in November 13. I said it was the best £100 action camera that I'd tested. Well, guess what that camera costs nowadays? £23. Yeah, I was a little bit surprised as well. I mean, prices tend to drop, but £23, it's less than a quarter of the original price. So I thought, I'll pick one of those up because I was wondering, is it a copy of the original one or is it a kind of downgraded version or some sort of cheap knockoff or whatever? So I went on eBay, I managed to get the SVC 400 for about £26, and that's what I'm going to show you in this video. Now, the SVC 400 is pretty much the same camera as the SVC 200, with the slight change that the resolution of the stills is a little bit higher. Although, to be honest, they're all interpolated, you know what I mean, blown up. They're not really that resolution, so don't worry about the stills. I'm just here to see if this action camera is the same one that it was back in November 13, but now it's a quarter of the price. So in the box you get a USB-A to Mini B cable, you get the waterproof case which has a glass lens on the front, and it's got a tripod screw mount on the bottom. And then you've got this little adapter which enables you to attach that to a GoPro type hinge. And then we've got the instruction booklet here, which, as you can see on the front of there, says for the SVC 200/400, because it's pretty much the same camera. Now, once you've got the camera in the case, sliding the switch on the top will turn the camera on and start it recording, or it would do if I had a memory card in it. And of course, sliding the switch the other way will also turn it off. Fair enough. Now, I'm not going to go through all the features of this camera. I'm just going to briefly go around it. The reason is I'm just seeing if it's still worth buying. I mean, at £26, is this camera worth buying? Let's have a look anyway. So on the bottom, we've got a tripod mount on the bottom of the camera itself. The lens on the front doesn't rotate. It'd be nice if it did, but of course you can't have everything for this price. We've got mic on the front there. Colour LCD screen on the side with 4 buttons down the side to change the settings and things on the top. We've got that slider switch to start the recording, and then we've got a camera button and a power button as well. The slider switch on the top, I've got to say, is a little bit loose on there. It's much better when you use it inside the case. Got a microphone hole and a USB port on the back. The mic hole is very important. I'll explain more about that in a moment. And then behind this door, you just slide this little bit up here. That whole thing folds down. You can get to those same ports as well as a mini HDMI and the battery, which can be removed from the camera. You just slide it out there. Next to the battery is the slot for the micro SD card as well. Now, that battery will last for 2 hours recording in 1080p 30 mode. That's with the screen turned off. It automatically turns off after a while, and just the LED indicator on the camera indicates it's recording. It takes a couple of minutes before it does that. Sort of does it automatically. It does a lot of things automatically, really. There's not too much in the settings here. It's quite a simple camera. So powered it on. I've already got a micro SD card in it now. So you look at the screen now, you can see some information at the top as to what the modes are and things. If we press the top button, that gets us into the menus. We can change it into car mode, which will mean it'll work exactly as a dash cam, auto start and stop recording, loop over the oldest footage, normal dash cam stuff, or you can use it as an action camera, which is what I'm doing here. I've formatted the memory card to start with, so the next menu along is playback, obviously to play the videos we've recorded and look at the photos and things, and then go into the settings. Now, I'm going to go through this very quickly because I've done it all before in the previous video, but you can see we've got modes of different resolutions of the photos here, which I haven't used, to be honest, and also you can capture them at different intervals as well. But you don't buy a little camera like this to take stills with it. Your smartphone's going to take better stills than this thing by a long way, as long as you've bought it in the last 5 years or so. Right, looking into the settings here for video, we've got 1080p 30, 720p 60 and 720p 30. If we change it into PAL mode, those change to PAL frame rate, so that would be 1080p 25, 720p 50 and 720p 25, which is nice that you've got both in there. And then we'll just go through the other things. Date and time, obviously you set the date and time in here, but once you've gone through there, once you get to the end, it asks if you want that date and time overlaid on the video, yes or no. So that's where you change that setting. You can change the on-screen menus to a number of different languages. Of course, choose the flag there, turn the microphone on or off, and then finally format the card, which we've already done. But let's go back to the sound for a minute and have a listen to the sound from that microphone input. Okay, so I'm talking to you now through a lapel mic or lavalier mic, whatever you want to call it here. This is a powered one. I'll show you the model details in the description. The reason I'm using this one is because I tried this with an unpowered model, nothing came through. Now, the one thing you'll have to do is get a 3.5mm to 2.5mm mini jack adapter to be able to plug this in the back of the camera, but as you can hear, it does work. And that for me is the most important feature on this camera, the fact you can put a microphone into it. It's the cheapest camera I know of with a microphone input. This is the adapter I was using, 2.5mm mini jack stereo, notice 3 poles on there to a 3.5mm female socket. And the microphone I was plugging into it was this Boya lavalier mic. I bought this from Amazon. It's about £15 in the UK at the moment. The downsides to it are there's a bit too much cable on it, and it doesn't have an LED on it to tell you when you've got it switched on, so you could quite easily accidentally leave it switched on and run the batteries down. And of course the LED should be able to tell you when the battery is flat, but of course there is no LED. There's the battery. It's a little button cell. I thought maybe the battery was the reason it was working and my other microphones weren't, but now on second thoughts I think it's down to this jack here. Notice it's got 4 poles on it as opposed to the 3 poles on the stereo 2.5mm jack, and for some reason when you join all these things together that works. I know people have had trouble using microphones on the SVC 200 and 400. They said they just couldn't get any sound through them. I haven't had any problems, but that was the setup I was using. If you do have one of these and you're not getting it to work, then maybe you need either a 4-pole microphone jack or you need a powered jack. I'm not too sure which one of those two is the thing that makes it work, but it does work. Now this is an older camera and the video quality is showing its age. It is 1080p 30, there's no problem with that, but as you can see here, as I drive towards the sun and get the camera pointing towards the sun, things go very dark. And this was a problem that I used to have with cameras a couple of years ago, and they seem to have improved the lenses and sensors and things, so this doesn't happen anymore. But back in 2013 this was a common problem. You pointed your action camera towards the sun and the scene would go too dark. Also the colours have a tendency to go towards the yellow end of the spectrum as well, and also the sound quality is not brilliant either. Notice at night time here it's very washed out as well, but we'll just have a listen to that sound and you'll hear all sorts of weird whines and crackles and pops and things. Okay, so we're doing 2 tests in one here. This is the nighttime test, rather obviously, to check out how the camera copes in low light, but also I'm talking to you through the camera's built-in microphone this time, rather than using one attached to my lapel. So obviously the sound quality is not going to be as good, but at least you'll be able to hear what it sounds like. So as you can hear, there's a high-pitched whine when there's no sound coming through. It tends to boost the microphone up or something. There's also a lot of crackles and pops which seem to be getting caused by vibrations. None of these things happen if you use a microphone you've plugged into it. The sound's fine then. It's only when it's using its built-in microphones that you've got these problems. Also, of course, the nighttime footage is quite grainy and, as I mentioned, washed out. But you've got to remember, this is a camera of its time. Its time was in 2013. Shows you how far we've progressed. But also, back when it came out, it was £100, now it's £20 odd. Maybe that's the kind of camera that you could just give to the kids or something to mess around with, and if they broke it or lost it, it wouldn't matter too much. And it is still the cheapest camera with a microphone input. Now, if you want to get hold of one of these, there's links to purchase them in the video description, but that's it for the moment. As always, thanks for watching.